Good morning. Oh, I bet you can do better than that. Good morning. And welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury. Take a moment, look around you, and greet people nearby, especially if it's someone you haven't met. So welcome to UU Danbury. First of all, please silence your phones if you have not done so already. A special welcome to our newcomers. I'm Nancy Hershatter. I'm a member of the Sunday Services Committee and a sometime provider of music on Sunday mornings, as well as one of the co-founders of Music at the Ridge, which is happening this afternoon. I signed the membership book around 2010, and since then UUCD has been a source of spiritual nourishment, intellectual exploration, a broadening of horizons on many fronts, as well as a cherished feeling of community. And especially during the pandemic, those sources of nourishment became even more vitally important, and I'm very grateful. So, Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Danbury has been gathering together for 200 years. As we work to build a more just world, we respectfully acknowledge that our physical building is on the traditional land of the Paugussett people. We're so glad that you're able to join us this morning. You are an essential part of our celebration today. Whether today is your first or 1000th Sunday in our midst, in person or online, hello online, we are stronger because you are with us. If you are new to our community and joining us online, we invite you to introduce yourself and where you're connecting from in the chat box as you're comfortable. And at the conclusion of today's service, you'll have the chance to participate in a breakout group for individual connections and deeper check-ins. If you're new and here in person, please fill out a visitor card at the table in our newly renovated lobby before you leave today. We are one people of many beliefs, many origins, sexualities, and genders. We are all growing, all learning, all loved. Just as you are welcome here. Today we welcome Reverend Paul Dodenhall, all the way from Northern Jersey, as our service presenter. Reverend Paul was raised in the Salvation Army during the 50s and 60s, but became interested in other religious paths very early in his teens. His journey led him to study and work within a wide variety of religious and spiritual traditions that led him to make his spiritual home within Unitarian Universalism. He received his BA magna cum laude in religion from Drew University and also pursued a master's degree at Drew in American religious history, specializing in the study of new religious movements in America. He was ordained as an interspiritual interfaith minister from One Spirit Interfaith Seminary in New York City in June of 2012. In June 2022, he retired as minister of the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of the Palisades in Englewood, New Jersey. Paul lives with his wife, Lisa, who is here with us today in New Jersey. This month's Share the Plate will benefit New Milford Refugee Resettlement. You can ask Jackie, raise your hand, if you'd like to learn more. It's a volunteer organization that works to help integrate refugee families into the New Milford community. They usually work with a family for 6 months to a year. Their goal to help the family to become financially independent by the end of that time. All of their volunteers, many who come from faith communities, are committed to doing their part in the resettlement of global refugees. Margaret Henderson has an announcement to share.
I wanted to highlight something that I just found out this week. There's an anti-racism program online called Beloved Conversations for UUs seeking to embody racial justice as a spiritual practice. Within is their initial uh, phase of it. It meets online every other week for 6 meetings for 12 weeks. It starts March 12th. Registration closes Friday. If you're interested, probably your best bet is to email me. They do a variety of multimedia learning, all different styles, worship, personal exploration, and being part of a pretty tight small group. I did it several years ago and really enjoyed it. And I will also just mention there is a brief announcement in your program that Monday night is the first reactivation of the social justice group here. It's online. Email Sherry or me for the link if you're interested in that. Thank you.
Two more quickies. Music at the Ridge at 4 o'clock this afternoon, featuring two fabulous musicians. And Luann and I have started conversation about doing a UU Seder at the end of April. So if you're interested in that, you can talk to Luann, raise your hand, or me. Just very much in the beginning stages of that conversation, but we're excited about it. So, time to light the chalice. You know what? I don't see the lighter. Help, Sam. It's in the closet. Okay, I'm so used to matches, and we are not doing this with matches any longer. So, okay. Oh, thanks, Annie. Okay. Like so? Okay. Please join me in the words on your screen. Love is the spirit of this congregation, and justice is its light. This is our covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek and speak the truth in love, to help one another and celebrate life. And now our hymn of welcome, number 1000 in the Teal hymnal, Morning Has Come.
So good to be together. Let's say our Unison Children's Affirmation. We are Unitarian Universalists. We are people with open minds, loving hearts, and helping hands. We care for the earth and each other. This morning's story is from a picture book, The Girl with Big, Big Questions by Brittany Wynn Lee. There was once a girl with twinkling eyes and a very curious mind. This girl was asking questions whose answers weren't easy to find. The world is so very interesting. She wanted to learn all she could, from what makes a plane stay in the sky to what makes each person good. Her days were filled with adventures galore, since her mind was so full of wonder. How long can a turtle stay in its shell? Why doesn't lightning come before thunder? Why can't people live on the moon? What happens to stars when they fall? When will you let me stay up all night? Why even have a bedtime at all? What does the dog do while I'm at school? Hey, how was the world made? And why do we have big hearts that can feel hurt and upset and afraid? Could I fly if I got a good running start? The nearest volcano is where? Are monsters real? What's Spanish for blue? Is it okay to cut my own hair? From the moment she opened her eyes to the day to the time she was tucked into bed, she'd ask and ask and ask every question that popped in her head. At first, her neighbors, teachers, and friends tried to answer her wonder-filled mind. But after a while, their encouraging smiles were replaced by the rolling of eyes. She noticed her questions were making them tense. And one day, her class hit their limit. After she asked about a dozen things about clouds, the class hollered, "Please stop, just quit it, stop." Embarrassed, the girl tried to quiet her thoughts and not raise a voice so curious so that no one would become too uncomfortable or even worse, furious. But one day she found the nest of a bird built low and exposed near the ground. Why would a nest not be in a tree, she wondered, and then looked around. She was all by herself with no one to ask, so she ran to the library shelves. She read about cities and the lack of safe places for birds to build nests for themselves. Like hunting for treasure, she searched and learned more answers that made her frown. With an urgent report, she announced to her class, "There are not enough trees in our town." The class, now moved by this information, asked questions about how to embark on a project to help both the birds and their neighbors by planting more trees in the parks. The girl knew then that big questions are good, and answers aren't just things to know. They are things to discover alongside each other. Asking questions is how we all grow. So ends the story. I want to invite now anyone who would like to join me downstairs for the children's programs this morning to come on down with myself and the volunteers.
Now, time for our shared milestones, when we share those things that are lifting us up or weighing us down. We'll begin with silent milestones, where you're free to come and put a stone in the bowl. And if you are at home and you have a means of marking your silent milestones, please do so. Folks are welcome to come up now.
In the preface to his Pulitzer Prize-winning play, Doubt, also a movie. Pulitzer Prize winning playwright John Patrick Shanley argues that doubt, quote, doubt requires more courage than conviction does, and more energy, because conviction is a resting place, and doubt is infinite. It is a passionate exercise, end quote. While such questioning takes us past a point of comfort, he claims, it is doubt, so often experienced initially as weakness, that changes things and thus represents nothing less than an opportunity to re-enter the present. Consider what happens in Shanley's play. Moments before the final curtain, his protagonist, Sister Aloysius, experiences an acute crisis. For most of the play, she believes that her colleague, Father Flynn, has molested one of their male students. But after confronting him and hearing his astonished reaction to her accusations, Sister Aloysius grows uncertain, then entertains the possibility that she might be wrong. The scene builds to a fleeting moment of self-reflection, the one coming too late to reassure her or the audience. I have doubts, she gasps. I have such doubts. As Sister Aloysius crumples, bent with emotion, the audience is invited to share her uncertainty. The immediate question, is Flynn guilty or innocent, rises to the status of a general condition. For the Victorians, that condition came to be seen as central fact of human experience, and it took knowledge, integrity, and understanding to face it. It offered them, as it can offer us, a productive, even hopeful way of reaching hard-won conviction that permits dissent, sharpens insight, and inspires creativity in the place of dogma and rote learning. It is a profoundly humanistic impulse that we need now more than ever.
Good morning. I'm Jackie Alexander, and it's my pleasure to tell you a little bit about New Milford Refugee Resettlement. It's a volunteer organization that works to help integrate refugee families into New Milford. They partner with the Integrated Refugee and Immigrant Services, IRIS, a nonprofit that's based in New Haven, which has been bringing immigrant families to Connecticut for 35 years. Once IRIS chooses a family, New Milford Refugee Resettlement takes over, renting, furnishing, and stocking an apartment close to the center of town and public transportation. When the family arrives, the volunteers see to it that they obtain medical and social services, including access to several food banks. They see to it that the children are enrolled in school and the parents in English language classes. They provide translation and transportation services, help the parents find employment, and help them understand banking and how to build credit. Assuming all major expenses for the first 3 to 6 months, they usually work with the family for a year. Their goal is to help the family become financially independent. Since 2016, the New Milford Refugee Resettlement Organization has helped 3 families resettle here: the Bagula family from the Congo, the Serrano family from Honduras, and the Malikzada family from Afghanistan. Our congregation helped the Serrano family in a number of ways. Margaret Henderson and Lynn Tabersack and several others of us helped. Just last week, the organization was approved by a new program of the U.S. state government, the Welcome Corps, to sponsor the family of Mohammed Mohammadi. This Afghan young man left Kabul when the city fell to the Taliban. Eventually, he found a home in New Milford and has served as interpreter for the Malikzada family. Mohammed's parents ran a private school in Kabul. At first, they were forbidden to teach girls, and then the Taliban closed the school. The family has been living temporarily in Pakistan after selling all of their belongings to get there. But Pakistan wants all the Afghan refugees to leave the country. Mohammed has 5 siblings. The eldest sister had begun dental school before they left Afghanistan, and the youngest brother is only 7. The Welcome Corps requires that 5 individuals at least commit to sponsoring a specific family. The group must raise $2,450 per family member, and commit to renting and furnishing a home for the family, supporting them when they arrive and assisting them in their path to independence. New Milford Refugee Resettlement has successfully achieved these goals with the first 3 families. They have the motivation and the manpower, but they need financial support. It's a significant commitment, but one that results in a healthy, happy, self-sufficient family that can contribute to the well-being of the community. All of the New Milford Refugee Resettlement volunteers are committed to doing their part. Now, thank you for your help today.
Thanks, Jackie. So it is now time for our congregational offering. If you're with us for the first time, your presence here, virtual or actual, is your gift to us. Members gathered here in Fellowship Hall, please express your generosity as our greeters circulate the donation baskets. Those online may click a link posted in the chat to make a donation or pledge. You may also mail a check to UUCD at 24 Clapham Ridge Road in Danbury. And you can mark on the bottom left line, New Milford Refugee Resettlement. As we create this holy place together, thank you for doing your part to support and sustain this community we love, and in this case, the larger community beyond our doors.
Good morning, everyone. It's good to be here again. Thank you for having me back. And you'll notice that if I'm limping a little bit, I'm dealing with a little bit of gout. And if you know what gout is, it's not fun. So if I list to port here now and then, it's because I'm favoring that foot. I did want to just say real quickly that I have something to share. I didn't before at the thing, but our grandson, Leonidas Alexander, was born 2 weeks ago, and we're very proud grandparents, so I just wanted to share that with you, proud grandpa, and I'll show you pictures later if you want. It's part of my job now, right? So I've been thinking a lot lately about the role of doubt in the life of faith, and I think it's a very important topic for us, especially as Unitarian Universalists, to consider occasionally, since we're really a religious tradition that's much more interested in questions than we are in the final, often easy answer to the big question. And in connection with the subject of doubt and faith, I've also been thinking about the subject of true believers. There's a comic strip called Jesus and Mo. Maybe you've seen it. Jesus and Mo, and in it, Jesus and Moses discuss various religious topics. One of them illustrates what I want to say about true believers and doubt. In it, Jesus asks Moses, "Mo, do you ever have any doubts about your beliefs?" And Moses replies, "Never." It's not because of a reluctance to think of man being alone in a meaningless universe, the accidental byproduct of a Darwinian algorithm and indifferent to his fate, nor is it fear of the finality of death, of the terrifying unimaginability of oblivion. There's a comic strip, remember? It's just that I could never admit to being so wrong for so long about something so important. To which Jesus replies, unimaginable, isn't it? Like some of you, perhaps, I was raised in a religious tradition that was based on absolute certainty. The Bible was literally the Word of God. In fact, I can still recall one of the articles of faith of my tradition that said that the Bible was the undisputed Word of God, given by inspiration of God, and that it alone constitutes the divine rule of Christian faith and practice. To question or to doubt that certainty was a sin, one that, if persisted in, would no doubt lead a person astray and straight into the arms of the devil, who had placed that doubt in the person's mind to begin with. The story of Adam and Eve and their temptation by the serpent in the Garden of Eden, the placing of doubt about what they had been told by Yahweh about the consequences of eating the fruit from the tree of knowledge of good and evil, was always held up to us not only as a story about how sin came into the world, but how we too could easily be led astray by Satan if we allowed ourselves to doubt God or his word. We too would lose our salvation, and unless we repented, we would be cast into hell for our disbelief. I'll return later to the idea of doubt as opposed to disbelief. And that tradition isn't the only one in which doubt is viewed as sinful or something to be avoided at all costs. In fact, most traditions don't encourage doubt. Some are not quite as dogmatic about it and allow that doubt as a normal part of the spiritual path and one's spiritual growth, but it must eventually give way to what is often called a saving faith. And what that usually means is that despite one's doubts, despite one's struggle with certain beliefs, even despite evidence presented that may challenge or contradict or even prove wrong a certain belief, one must finally just give up doubt and step out on faith and just believe. Now, I have to admit, there are times in life when we might want to just do that. A number of years ago, I think it was, 12 or so years ago, a doctor told me that I needed to have open heart surgery. And without it, I'd either have a stroke or a heart attack and likely die. Now, leading up to that statement from him, I had been suffering for months with what I just passed off as constant indigestion or acid reflux or whatever. And the shortness of breath was just because I was out of shape. You can see how my body has improved since then. And I knew that heart disease ran in my family and that I was a likely candidate too, but I doubted that this was what was happening because I was only 53 at the time and way too young. And I held on to that doubt for a long time. But when the doctor told me the results of the tests I finally had taken and his diagnosis, that was the point where I had to let go of that doubt and step out on faith. And letting a person hack open your chest cavity, stop your heart, cut and paste together some arteries and valves, and then sew you back together again takes a lot of faith, I have to tell you. For me, that was literally a saving faith. I had to be a true believer that the doctor knew what he was talking about and had the skill to perform that operation. In that case, we're talking about a very obvious and observable issue. I had a bum heart that needed repair, but in the case of larger issues, in the case of the big questions, I wanted to do that with like an echo kind of a thing. Big questions. The big questions in life, the ones that many people consider spiritual life or death or eternal questions. I think we as Unitarian Universalists part ways with true believers. Let me read you something that I think illustrates what I'm saying. This is from a different tradition. It's a book called the Kitab-i-Igan, in English called the Book of Certitude. in a section called The Tablet of the True Seeker. And it says, "O my brother, when a true seeker determineth to take the step of search in the path leading unto the knowledge of the Ancient of Days, he must, before all else, cleanse his heart, which is the seat of the revelation of the inner mysteries of God, from the obscuring dust of all acquired knowledge and the illusions of the embodiments of satanic fancy. He must purge his breast, which is the sanctuary of the abiding love of the beloved, of every defilement, and sanctify his soul from all that pertaineth to water and clay, from all shadowy and ephemeral attachments. Only when the lamp of search, of earnest striving, of longing desire, of passionate devotion, of fervid love, of rapture and ecstasy is kindled within the seeker's heart, and the breeze of his loving kindness is wafted upon his soul, will the darkness of error be dispelled, the mists of doubt and misgivings be dissipated, and the lights of knowledge and certitude envelop his being." No doubt allowed. The heart must be purged of all doubt and replaced with absolute certitude. True seeker, true believer. Over the years, I've listened, for as long as I'm able, to many fundamentalist Christian ministers on YouTube preach sermons about doubt. And one was Doubt, the Sin God Hates Most. He is a true believer. He has what he believes is a saving faith. For this minister, doubt is the same as disbelief. But that's not the case. The original Latin word for doubt is dubitare, which means to question, to hesitate, to waver in opinion. It's related to the Latin dubius, meaning uncertain, to choose between two things, and further back, to be of two minds. In fact, in the King James Version of the Bible, the book of James says that a double-minded man, meaning one who doubts, is unstable in all his ways. What this minister does is confuse questioning and uncertainty with absolute disbelief. And there are those pesky absolutes. Everything is black and white. There's no distinction in his mind between doubt and disbelief. It's absolute certainty or nothing at all. Even in Buddhism, there are true believers. Buddhists who say that others aren't true Buddhists because they have different views or certain tenets. Many Buddhists say that the tradition that I lean towards in Buddhism, Jodo Shinshu Buddhism, aren't true Buddhists because it has no outward practices that are found, say, in Tibetan Buddhism or Zen Buddhism, despite the fact that it's the largest branch of Buddhism in Japan and Asia. Stephen Batchelor, in his book Confessions of a Buddhist Atheist, writes, "The problem with certainty is that it's static. It can do little but endlessly reassert itself. Uncertainty, by contrast, is full of unknowns, possibilities, and risks. But true believers aren't only found in religious circles. There are true believers in the political, medical, scientific, and economic arenas as well. There are true believers in certain kinds of diets. The notion that there's only one true way and others are wrong cuts a very wide swath. And doubt is often quite viewed with suspicion, derision, ostracism, persecution, and even violence. Those who didn't fall in line with Lenin and Stalin, with Hitler, Mussolini, or Hirohito, those who disagreed with Nixon, with Mao, with Castro, well, we know what their fate was. Those who disagreed with Nixon and Kissinger and McNamara, remember George Bush's words, "If you're not with us, you're against us." True believers united behind him. And we see the exact same thing happening today. To doubt, to ask questions, and especially to give proof of the validity of those doubts is a dangerous thing. I don't have to say it, but I will, that I believe this is possibly the most dangerous time in our democracy that I never thought I'd live to see this. So if you had any doubts, be certain that you need to get out there in November. Saul Alinsky, the great community organizer and author of Rules for Radicals, wrote in that book, "The human spirit glows from that small inner light of doubt whether we are right, while those who believe with certainty that they possess the right are dark inside and darken the world outside with cruelty, pain, and injustice." I would venture to say that we even have some true believers in our own liberal religious tradition, people who believe that it's the only real spiritual path that people should be following. I'd like to think that too, but it's not. To be a Unitarian Universalist requires courage, if you will, to be willing to ask those questions, to doubt, if you will, and not everyone is able to do that. So what role do faith and doubt play in our UU religious tradition? Do we have a saving faith, as some true believers in other traditions say we must have? I believe we do have that saving faith. But I don't use that phrase to mean that we are saved in some supernatural way by a vicarious atonement and cleansing of our sins to appease an angry deity somewhere in order to gain entrance after we die into some heavenly realm. I believe that the saving faith we have as Unitarian Universalists is one that has everything to do with becoming fully human in the deepest sense. To be able to feel and experience the full range of emotion and compassion and kinship with all other humans on the planet and with all sentient beings, to nurture the very best in each and every one of us, to live a life of service to each other, recognizing not only the uniqueness that each of us possesses, but the unity and the oneness that we share as sparks of that divine evolutionary process we're part of. When we experience that kind of saving faith, we are compelled to share it with others, to work to bring about real and lasting change in our lives and the lives of those around us. That is what a saving liberal faith is about. And right alongside that saving faith, equally as important, is what I call the necessity of a saving doubt. Our faith is not one that requires blind acceptance of dogma and scripture. To be sure, we read these and we honor them. We gain insight and even spiritual sustenance from them, but this is always done, or should be, with the reliance on a saving doubt, a critical mind, one that questions and tests and examines and re-examines just what the place, if any, these should hold in our lives. And this isn't only about religion or religious texts. If we are to be true to our UU heritage, we have to apply this saving doubt to the areas of science and politics and all aspects of our lives. Doubts, said the theologian Friedrich Buechner, doubts are the ants in the pants of faith. They keep it awake and moving. We live in a world that cries out for certainty. But the certainty, like security, that certainty, like security, is an illusion. The great majority of people want to have answers given to them immediately, to know with certainty that their government is trustworthy, that the clothing they wear is the trendiest, that the food they eat is the most artisanal, that their kids are the smartest, the car they drive the fastest, and especially that their faith is the right one and that the answers to ultimate questions are all there. All of these, though, are doubtful. Doubtful. We can't be absolutely sure of any of this. And to say that we are is really lying to ourselves. This doesn't mean that none of those are true or that nothing is true. What it means is that as we live out our lives, as we are presented each day with the daily ups and downs, the daily struggles and joys of living, we need to honor our doubt as well as our faith. We will find things in life that we can be mostly certain of. It's attributed to Mark Twain. You know, we could be certain, death and taxes. Barring a sudden, unforeseen apocalyptic explosion, the sun will rise again tomorrow, and will do the same for the next few billion years. We can be mostly certain of things like that, but always we ask questions. always we honor the questions and the questioner. Holding this kind of liberal faith isn't easy. It's a faith of saving doubt. The book of James also says that faith without works is dead. I think it's also true that faith without doubt is childish naivete. In a passage that many of you are probably familiar with or maybe have some familiarity with, from Letters to a Young Poet, the poet Rainier Maria Rilke wrote this. He said, "Have patience with everything that remains unsolved in your heart. Try to love the questions themselves, like locked rooms and like books written in a foreign language. Do not now look for the answers. They cannot now be given to you because you could not live them. It is a question of experiencing everything. At present, you need to live the question. Perhaps you will gradually, without even noticing it, find yourself experiencing the answer some distant day. Your doubt can become a good quality if you train it. It must become knowing. It must become criticism. Ask it whenever it wants to spoil something for you, why something is ugly. Demand proofs from it. Test it. And you will find it perhaps bewildered and embarrassed, perhaps also protesting. But don't give in. Insist on arguments and act in this way, attentive and persistent every single time, and the day will come when instead of being a destroyer, it will become one of your best workers, perhaps the most intelligent of all the ones that are building your life. This is the saving doubt of a spiritual liberal faith, and I think a fully lived human life itself. Because the freedom to doubt, to question, to be content to live in mystery is central to the liberal religious tradition. Like the process of evolution itself, the path that we follow, our practice, if you will, is not easy or simple. It isn't without its dead ends or its disappointments. It doesn't guarantee that all of our conclusions will be final or that we will ever find an answer to all of our questions. But also, like the process of evolution, it is filled with great expressions of beauty and awe, and that are sometimes born of great struggle and at other times come as unexpected grace. May it be so.
If you are able to join us in our Can't Wait Now by Census and your 98-year hymnal and on the screen. Please join me in the words for extinguishing our chalice. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts and out into the world until we are together again.